Autoware.auto is not to the point where you'd be able to do level 4 autonomy. It's not yet designed or built to the stage where you can take the vehicle out on the road and drive in downtown Pittsburgh. It's not there yet. It will eventually get there, but the way that the Autoware Foundation development cycle works is it targets ODDs, or operational design domains. So the first operational design domain that was targeted by the Autoware Foundation was autonomous valet parking. So they did an autonomous valet parking demonstration that was done in a parking lot in Sunnyvale, California. It was basically take the vehicle to a pickup point, pick up a passenger, let them, sorry, other way around, drop a person off at a drop-off point, and then they get out their cell phone, hit a button, the vehicle will go park itself at a parking spot, and then later when they come back, hit another button on their cell phone, and it will drive to them, pick them up, and then they drive it away. All of this was done with a safety driver, but during the demonstration, the safety driver was not touching the steering wheel. Oh, they don't have video on here. So because autonomous valet parking, they've done 2 operational design domain demonstrations. One was the AVP and the other one was cargo delivery. Cargo delivery is definitely a much more complex operational design domain than just parking in a parking lot, but they don't have the documentation available for the cargo ODD yet. So we're mostly going to talk about the autonomous valet parking in terms of architecture used, how the system was set up, etc. So Autoware is not a monolithic system. It is not something where you just run everything and then configure it for what you want. You pick and choose which algorithms and which nodes are going to be running in the architecture for your use case. So during the autonomous valet parking demonstration, this is a block diagram of the architecture that was used. So we'll kind of just quickly go through most of the high-level blocks, and then we'll get into kind of setting up Autoware on your machine. So we started for sensing only with 2 LiDARs in autonomous valet parking. We did this specifically because we only wanted this to be a fair weather ODD. We did a full analysis of the operational design domain and what conditions we were willing to operate under. And since this was our first one, we wanted to make it as simple as possible. So we only used 2 LiDARs, but each of those LiDARs, when they receive data, it's in their own frame of reference. So we had to get them into a common frame of reference for the car to be able to merge them together. So we used a points transformer. Then we used a fusion algorithm to fuse the data from both of the LiDARs. The data output from the fused point cloud went to a ray ground filter, which was to separate out all of the points that it thought was ground. And then all of the non-ground points were sent into a Euclidean cluster detector, which would group all of the points into clustered objects. And then an object collision estimator, which would take the plan from the behavior planner and determine if we were going to intersect any of the objects. And then at this point in time, it was just designed to stop if it saw any object before the impact of it. The output from the fused point cloud was also used in a downsampler, which was then compared with a pre-recorded point cloud to do localization, which is the NDT localizer. That point cloud was provided by a point cloud loader, which basically just took the point cloud file and made it available in ROS. The output of that localizer was used in both a global planner and a local planner, and the global planner used a mapping format called Lanelet2. So Lanelet2 is what's called a semantic map format. So it provides like road edges and speed zones and parking zones and that sort of stuff. So you really need 2 types of maps to be able to effectively use Autoware with automatic routing. You need the point cloud map for localization, and you need the Lanelet2 map for all of the semantic rules about where you're driving. So the global planner would then plan a route from the current location to the desired location, and then that route would be passed to the behavior planner, which would do the local planning. The local planner would call sub-planners for each segment of the route. So if the route was a parking maneuver, it would call the parking planner. If the route was a lane, it would call the lane planner. And those pretty much just turned the segments into a set of waypoints. The parking planner was a little bit more complex because you had constraints of where you could move the vehicle, and it had to solve a nonlinear problem to get the vehicle at the parking spot. But essentially, it just the output is a set of waypoints. And then the behavior planner would take those waypoints, conglomerate them all together from all the segments, and then pass them to our vehicle controller. In this case, we used an MPC-based controller. And then the local trajectory that was computed by the MPC controller would be passed to the vehicle interface. The vehicle interface would then pass it to the drive-by-wire system. So I know that was all really quick and fairly large, but I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of what a typical architecture looks like in Autoware, and we'll start running some of these things on the real vehicle. Our architecture for the demos that we're going to do probably tomorrow is fairly simplistic because we're just going to be doing GNSS-based localization instead of LiDAR. So we don't need the pre-recorded map. We can just figure out where we are using GNSS. And then we will probably do some real basic perception, but for the most part, it's going to be a monitored vehicle driving via GPS waypoints in a parking lot. So that is the high-level overview. And then we'll get back to how to get Autoware up and running. So how many of you do not have Ubuntu on a laptop? Anybody? Cool. Does anybody not have ROS on their Ubuntu laptop? Okay. So easiest way is probably going to be if you Google ROS2 Foxy installation and start with that. There are going to be several options available. So once you're to the Foxy installation page, choose the Debian packages version. And then essentially just copy and paste the steps from here. That's probably going to take about half an hour or so to get going. And let me know if you get stuck anywhere. All right, item number 1, create a GitLab account. So how many of you do not have GitLab accounts yet? You've all got GitLab accounts. Awesome, nice, okay. So step number 2, we're gonna fork Autoware into your GitLab account. So start by going to gitlab.com/Autoware Foundation /Autoware.auto. And again, please feel free to interrupt me if anybody gets stuck or has questions. Once you're at the Autoware.auto page, then go to the Autoware Auto project without the dot. And then from here, if you are logged into your GitLab account, you should have a fork button available in the upper right. And when you click fork, it will ask you what you want to call this new project. You can just leave it as Autoware Auto. When it asks for select a namespace, just choose your name. And you can make this public. We're not making any proprietary changes here. And then just click fork project. Now, I already have one, so it's probably going to complain. Yep. But once you click fork project, it should start creating your own copy of the Autoware project. And then that will be available under gitlab.com/your-username/AutowareAuto. So here's my fork. Are you guys all familiar with the term fork with regard to Git repositories? Anybody not? Cool. So our fork is where we're going to be adding, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Oh yeah, so when you, so you'll go to this address. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. Are you guys all in the Slack channel? Yeah, you can also Google Autoware, autoware.auto. It should take you there for the first result, I think. But I'll post this in the Autoware training just in case. Okay. Next step is going to be cloning your fork of Autoware into your workspace. So Autoware Auto itself is kind of going to become your ROS workspace. So open up a terminal. And you can do that with Control-Alt-T if you don't want to search for it. So once you're in the terminal, just to make sure everybody has Git, go ahead and type Git and make sure that you've got some output that looks similar to this, help data for Git. If you do not have Git, then let me know and I'll give you the command to install it. Everybody cool? Yeah.
So we actually went through
Okay, so do you have Ubuntu 2004 installed as the base system for your machine? Okay, we'll go through it as the installation without ADE this time, because when you're installing it on a car or on an autonomous system, you usually want to do it on the base machine to keep from the overhead that Docker includes. So plus we're going to be using your own fork and we'll be creating packages in it. So it's important that we do it this way.
okay. So it won't mess up anything that you
No, it should be fine. The only caveat to that is you'll want to create it in a different location than wherever you got your copy that's going to be working in ADE. So I have a folder called Sandbox that I use for most of my development, and you can create it wherever you want in your home folder. Just make sure you know where it is. Okay, so we'll start by cloning your copy of the repository. So you can easily do this by, once you're on your fork, you can click the clone button in the upper right and copy. If you have an SSH key set up, you can use the SSH URL. If you don't, you can just use the HTTPS. We're not going to go through SSH setup right now because it's a little bit of a pain. But if you happen to already have it set up, that's fine. So just do git clone and then the repository URL. And I already have a folder there, so I'm going to clone it back down. Okay. So Autoware uses a tool called VCS to pull in additional repositories. Those of you who have already done the setup in ADE, you've seen this before as well. But we need to install VCS on your system to make sure that you can pull in those external repositories. So to install VCS, use sudo apt install Python 3 VCS tool, Python 3 -VCS tool. And you're gonna have to enter your password for the sudo command. Mine should already have it. Guess it didn't. All right. Is anybody having any issues so far? Still good? All right. Once you've cloned down Autoware and you've got VCS installed, CD into your Autoware auto directory that got created from the git clone. My fork of the repository is kind of old, so give me just a minute to update it. Yeah, please. Oh, oops. Mine should be updated with everybody else's fork. All right. Once, yeah, go ahead. You were not able to? So what is the error message you got? Do you have two-factor authentication set up on your GitLab account? Like, does it require a code in order to log in? Okay. And you use the HTTPS. So could it have been that you entered your password incorrectly? Well, it should be a public repository, so it should have been able to clone without that. Did you both get that error? No. Oh, just him. Go back to your first. You won't be able to take this one. Go back. Expand the dates. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. I don't know why that didn't work the first time. But okay. So to use VCS to get the other repositories, all you have to do is in your Autoware auto folder. Yeah. So, yeah, I can do that. Okay, there should be a PDF there now. Okay, so we'll use the VCS tool to import those repos. So the command is VCS import, and then the less than symbol, and then autoware.auto.foxy.repos. So that's the file in Autoware that defines the repositories that we want to pull in. So what VCS will do is it will parse that autoware.auto.repos file, and this is what the content of that file looks like. So you've got, it's basically just a YAML file. You have repositories at the top, and then a list of the locations of where you want the repositories to be cloned down to. The type, which is either going to be Git or HG for Mercurial, but nobody really uses HG or Mercurial anymore, or SVN, which is also older. The URL to the repository, and then which branch or tag you want to pull down from that repository. So these are very important because if we make changes to, for example, the Autoware Auto Messages repository, but we don't want to break all of the existing code in Autoware Auto, then you can leave the version as is until the merge request is made that includes both the updates to fix the code and the update to that version to update the repo that it pulls in. And we will be modifying this file later to add in our own repositories for the car that's out here. So once that is cloned down, anybody have any issues using VCS? Good. Then we need to install all of the ROS dependencies for the entire stack, plus the new repositories that we just cloned down. So you'll want to run sudo apt install python 3-rosdep2. So rosdep is the tool that ROS uses to resolve dependencies within a ROS workspace. I can actually make this a little bigger. Can you guys read that okay? Once rosdep is installed, if you haven't used it before, you have to run sudo rosdep init to initialize rosdep and have it install some of the common files. Mine is already initialized, so I get an error saying that if I wish to reinitialize it, I have to delete this file. But you guys shouldn't get an error if you've never used it before. Yeah. You got the same error? Okay, that's all right. It just means that it's been used on your system, whether you thought so or not. If you want to, you can sudo rm this file, and it will delete the file, and then you can run sudo rosdep init again, and it'll clear it out. But yeah, so rosdep uses a few files that are on a GitHub account to pull down like the list of dependencies, and where the location of that hasn't changed in like 10 years. So you should be fine. Actually, one thing I did not put on here, I forgot to, is it's actually important to sudo apt update. So while rosdep has its own list of dependencies, it uses Ubuntu system dependencies to resolve a lot of those. So sudo apt update is important so that you get the latest list of dependencies that are available. And then you also need to update rosdep by doing rosdep update. So rosdep update will go grab those YAML files on GitHub that I was talking about and pull down all their contents. So once rosdep has been updated, you'll use the rosdep install command to install all the dependencies for your Autoware workspace. This command is a little bit ugly. But essentially what it's saying is raw step install every dependency that's in the path src, which is where all the source code is for Autoware. The I flag tells it to ignore any packages which are already available in the workspace. And then Y tells it to go ahead and install them without having to prompt you first. And this may take a few minutes depending on how many you've installed in the past. Yeah.
Maybe not supported or
You're using Ubuntu 2004?
I have Autoware.
Oh, yeah. So there is a way to get around that in Pop! OS. So in your bash RC file, you need to add this export. So it's ROS OS override equals Ubuntu :2004:focal. Yeah, I can put that in Slack too. So if you happen to be using Pop! OS, this is also necessary. I'm using Pop! OS, so I have to keep it. So basically what this does is it just tells ROSDEP, if you're using whatever OS you're actually using, use this one instead. For those who aren't familiar with it, Pop! OS is a spin-off of Ubuntu that's made by System 76, the guys who make this laptop. And in my opinion, it's a bit more user-friendly. And if you're doing any sort of gaming on Linux, it is way better. Much more updated NVIDIA drivers. Yeah, lots of extra stuff. It's very handy. Oh, and if any of you happen to be wondering what this is down here at the bottom, if you guys haven't heard of it, there's a command you can install for Linux called the fuck. If you screw up the typing of a terminal command or you forget to use sudo, you can, for example, if I run apt update and I forgot to use sudo, I can type fuck, and it will give me the correct command and then offer me to log in for it. So yeah, I recommend installing that one. It's very handy. Huh? On Ubuntu, it's just sudo apt install the fuck. All right. Is anybody still installing dependencies? Got any left still?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. No problem. This one's fun, true. Oh, right. You just installed the browser. So in your you can edit your hash recipe file. So you have to just put the use side there and share for example. Source slash cross slash sound. Basically, we've got proxy, so terminal has to know all of the above. So very, very There's road places in my Okay. You have to have this. You've got this new active. So, Tuesday. Now, just remove this. Yeah. That is probably because it's works just fine overall. So in general, you will either have ROS2 drivers that are available from binary packages that are from the ROS build farm, and in which case you can sudo apt install them or just make them like a dependency of your package, and then they'll get installed automatically with ROS dep. Data speed is kind of unique in that they don't release their ROS2 drivers to the ROS build farm. They make you download them and build them from source. So in order to support this vehicle, we're going to add the data speed repository to our .repos file. And then we will have VCS download that package and install it into our workspace. And then we can use ROS dep to install dependencies for everything that depends on. So the first step of that is to edit your .repos file. So you can use Nano if you're comfortable with using Nano in the terminal, or you can use Vim if you're comfortable with that, or if you want a graphical environment, you can use gedit. So inside Autoware Auto, just type one of those commands, gedit, Vim, or Nano, and then the name of the repos file that you want to edit. I'm going to use Vim because I'm most familiar with it, but Vim has a steep learning curve, so I don't blame you if you don't want to use it. So what we're going to be doing is adding a new repository here. And in this case, we will just put it in source external data speed. So right after the Autoware auto messages repository, add a new line and then make sure it's indented 2 spaces. The indentation is really important. YAML cares about it a lot. So it has to be 2 spaces, not a tab. And then SRC, external data speed. And then a colon. After that, new line, indent 4 spaces. And the type is Git. So inside your Autoware Auto folder, just use an editor, either gedit, Nano, or Vim. So type that command for the editor you want to use, and then the name of the file, which is autoware.auto.foxy.repos. And tab autocomplete is your friend. So if you type in the first few letters and hit tab, it'll autocomplete the file name for you, unless there happens to be another file in that folder with the same few letters at the beginning. Okay. So the type of the repository is Git. The URL, which I will put in chat, is on bitbucket.org. And I actually have to look it up because I don't remember it offhand. You can see this is the only thing I go to on Bitbucket. So clone, copy. Okay. Oh, oops. Don't use the git clone part of that. Yep. So if you use the clone button from Bitbucket and you paste it into here, you'll get git clone. So remove that from the beginning of it. Just make sure it's just the URL. And in this case, we're using their default branch, which is called ROS2. So for the version line, you'll just put ROS2. Everybody got that in their repos file? Any issues? Cool. All right. Once that's in your repos file, we'll do the VCS import command again to pull down that new repo. So VCS import > symbol and then the file name. The VCS import command will take quite a bit longer this time because that repo has a lot of history. All right. And then the next step is we're going to install all the new dependencies that package or that repository depends on, also using ROS-step. So you'll need the ROS-step command again that I pasted into chat. So ROS-step install --from -paths src -i-y. Let me know if you guys run into an error here because okay, did you get an error that it was unable to find a certain dependency?
Yeah.
What's the name of it? Okay. All right. That's kind of what I thought. And that's actually why my slides at this point say fix the driver for your vehicle. Because I thought that it was broken, but for some reason it is not broken on my machine. Oh, no, it did. Never mind. Okay. Yeah. Use the following raw steps failed to install. So this happens when a package in your workspace depends on a package that ROS-dep either cannot find an entry for, or it doesn't know where to find the package. In this case, this is actually a bug in DataSpeed's driver. They depend on a package that for some reason either doesn't exist on the ROS build farm or they never uploaded to their Bitbucket. So in order to fix that, we actually need to delete some stuff from their repository. So what we're going to do is we're going to find all of the instances of data speed can message filters, and we're going to remove them from their repository. So to do that, inside your Autoware auto folder, go into cd into src external data speed. And then you can use ls to list the contents of that directory. In here, you'll see there are quite a few packages. And in order to find the instances of that package name that is missing, this name is actually the Ubuntu package name of the package you're looking for. And in general, if you're trying to find a package that has been translated into an Ubuntu package, the name of the actual package is without the Ross Foxy part on the beginning. So the name of the package will be data speed can message filters. Also in general, if you're looking for the Ross package name, it will be underscores instead of dashes in the name. So in order to find all the instances of that package, the easiest way is to use a program called grep, which will search the contents of every file. And then you can use -r to do it recursively in this folder. And then the name of the package you're looking for, which is dataspeed underscore can underscore MSG underscore filters. And unfortunately, there are about 15 entries for dataspeed can message filters. So there are kind of two ways we can go about this. We can either try and fix these packages so that it doesn't depend on it, or we can see if we can find dataspeed can message filters somewhere. And I believe, yes, I believe it's in their repository somewhere. Yep, okay. So dataspeed can message filters actually exists in another repository from dataspeed called dataspeed can. I don't know why they don't have you clone down this repository as well, but we're going to add this one to our repos file and then use VCS to clone it down again. So let me copy this and put it in Slack. And then we'll CD back up to the base of the Autoware Auto Workspace. In this case, that's 3 levels up, so you can do all of them in one command. And then once again, edit the .repos file. Okay. So we're going to add another entry right below the one we added before. So this one will be source external dataspeed can. Colon. This is also of type Git. The URL is the one I just pasted into chat. Oops. Without the git clone part on it. And the version is going to be the name of their default branch, which is master. I'll paste this all into chat too. Missed some messages in chat. And you used VCS again before that? Okay. So after you've entered that, you'll use VCS import, Autoware Autofoxy repos. And then you'll run raw step again. Let me see what it fails with. Oh, okay. All right. That's because that's my bad. It's using the ROS1 version of DataSpeed CAN. So we actually need to use the ROS2 branch instead of master. I didn't realize they had a separate one for that. So you'll have to edit your repos file again. And for DataSpeed CAN, you just need to change version from master to ROS2. That's a good question. It will override it. Yep. So let me edit that message in chat too. Okay. So once you've got those entries in your repos file, you'll have to do VCS import again. That will pull down the ROS2 version of it. And then raw step install will still fail with ROS-Foxy LUSB. That shouldn't be correct. I think that's LSUSB. Oh, there's another one for. Oh my God. Okay, thank you. Oh, I see it. Yep. There's an LUSB repository, and that also has a ROS2 version from DataSpeed. Man, these guys do not know how to manage dependencies. So we'll add another entry to the repos file. And it'll be source external LUSB. Also type git. And then version ROS2. And again, I'll post this in chat too. Okay, cool. Thanks. Did you post the entire block or just the URL? Okay, thank you. All right. Once that's done, run VCS again. And if you guys aren't familiar with it, you can use the up arrow on your keyboard to go back through your history of commands, and that makes it a lot faster and easier to run commands over again. And then you'll run raw step again. And hopefully you should get all required raw steps installed successfully this time. All right. Actually left a step out here, which I need to add. I apologize if I'm running kind of fast. There's, yeah, go ahead. Okay, so the easiest thing to do is going to be links to your SRC. And then RN space dash RN space. That figures out your source text folder. Go back 2 levels. And then run the CS. So now we get to start the actual development process. So in order to make sure that our fork has the work that we've been doing on it, we want to use Git to create a new branch. So it's important especially in Autoware development, to make sure that you are working on a branch and never on master. And the main reason is that master is kind of your source for the upstream changes. So the development cycle for ROS or for Autoware is similar to a lot of other repositories. And what you essentially want to do is you want to, generally when you're developing, you'll add another remote to Git, which means that you can pull in changes from the upstream Autoware auto and then merge them into your master branch. So your master branch is kind of the staging place, and you don't have to merge those into the branch you're working on. It's just it allows you to see the incoming changes, see what has changed, and then if you want to merge them into the branch you're working on. If you decide to make any changes that you want to push back to upstream Autoware, then your branch that you're working on has to be updated to the latest version that's available on Autoware. Otherwise, the merge won't happen. So it's a good idea to just leave master as a staging branch. So for now, we can create a new branch on your fork, and we can just call it Autoware Bootcamp. So inside your Autoware auto repository, do git checkout -b, which means create a new branch, Autoware -bootcamp. And that should tell you that you've switched to a new branch called Autoware -bootcamp. To make sure that A, you're on the right branch, and B, you haven't changed anything unexpected, you can do git status. And it should show you which branch you're on and any files you've changed. In that case, it should just be autoware.auto.foxy.repos. Does anybody have any other files that have been changed other than the .repos file? Cool. All right, so to add your changes to this branch, you'll do git add -A, and capital A will both add new files and stage any files that have been updated. And then to commit those changes, you do git commit -m, and then the commit message that you want on this commit. And in this case, we can just do added data speed repos or something similar. Make sure that commit message is in double quotes. once you have done the commit, since you are working on a new branch that doesn't exist on the remote GitLab fork, you've got to push the new branch and tell it, I want to create this branch on the remote. So you use git push -u origin, which is your remote that you're pushing to, and then the name of your new branch, which is Autoware Bootcamp. And it might ask you for your username and password for this one because you're modifying the repo. Do you use two-factor auth on your GitLab account? Okay. Did you get the capitalization on your username correct? Because it cares about that.
Yeah. Like it says remove HTTP access method.
Without asking for a username?
No, after I take the username.
Okay, try re-entering it one more time. If that doesn't work, I'll show you how to use an SSH key. Unless you're already familiar with it. Same error. Sorry. Okay. It's hard to hear from up here, so try and yell at me if you can. Yeah. Mm. Oh, that's right. I forgot GitLab disabled HTTPS authentication. I forgot. No, SSH uses a key on your machine and a key on the remote, but you can do what's called a personal access token as well. I forgot about that. So if you guys are getting authentication errors, you can go to GitLab and click on your username and then go to preferences and go to access tokens. And what you'll do is create a personal access token, and you'll use that as your password. So I forgot that GitLab disabled HTTP access. So you'll either have to use this personal access token or you'll have to create an SSH key. Are you looking for an SSH key on his machine?
Yeah.
He may not have generated one yet. Use SSH-keygen and just hit enter a bunch of times. Yeah. Yeah. How many of you have been able to upload your fork so far, or push to your fork? You're good? You're good? Okay. Have you been able to upload? Okay, cool. So you can change the. So
Yeah, okay.
So do GIT space remote space set dash URL space origin space GIT at feedback.com. Slash Autoware. The capitalization of this part. It's the first time you connect to it, so you have to press. It's very specific.
And then
Yes. Oh. So it's probably different version. Previous version. Actually, first, that's fine. So source external is considered an external. So how are we? Yeah. Yeah. Just added things. Oh, you need to set up yourself. It's probably because you built it before. The first time building it, it shouldn't happen. Oh, yeah, so run sudo apt install Python dash COL COM and then hit tab double text. What we call it common extension. You type COM and hit tab. Now try that. So they're sure for a while. listening into sources. SRS. No, you're in Autoware. Okay, so it's missing. It's missing the dependencies. So we'll go back. And then do the DCS. Before you, so that should be there. But now go back up to so just hit up there on or sorry, from dash paths. Oh, space on dash paths. Now, you basically one builder, it's been running to several hours. Just didn't like the last name. So the full-time build of Autoware takes at least 20 minutes. There are 170 some packages in Autoware, and a lot of those have very complex dependencies. So it just takes a while to build. There's not much else you can do about it. There are a couple of known bugs that you'll probably want to look into during your build process in Autoware. In general, if you run into any build issues, it's likely that other people have run into them too. And you can go to the list of Autoware issues to see if you can find similar results. So in the Autoware auto repository, if you go to issues on the left, there are 260 open issues. Most of those are issues that were entered by developers about new features that they want to add or design documents for stuff that they're currently working on. But there are a few of them that are build errors and like known issues on how to fix them. So, let's see. So Ocado vendor, this issue is a known one. If you make changes to Autoware Auto, there is a there's a known bug where this particular package will sometimes it'll find the package, but it'll fail with like some unrelated errors, like read what was it? Real underscore T is undefined. This is because Ocado is a nonlinear problem solver, and in order to generate the code necessary to solve nonlinear problems, it actually has to write its own C++ files, and some of those get cached in the package. So if you make any changes to Autoware, it tries to rebuild that, and then it can't find it. It tries to link to a file that was built on a previous version, and it fails. This is a known issue. There is documentation in the list of issues about how to fix it. I think if you just search for Ocado, eradicate CMake and build warnings, I think. Gradient, PCL, no? Sorry about that. All right. I will put the fix. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, that's a private channel. So it's not available to everybody.
That's okay. You just not replace.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. There it is. Yeah. Are you stopping and starting recording? Okay. It was like I could hear the prompts and I didn't know what they were for. That's fine. Okay. Yeah.